Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Toon Review on this Friday morning ahead of a very difficult game at Stamford Bridge on Sunday, of course. My name's Paul. I'm joined by my own mucker, Billy Bob, for the press conference reaction, as Eddie Howe has spoken to the media ahead of the game. Usual things at the start, though. If you do enjoy today's show, hit that like button. And, of course, if you're new, please do subscribe. It is free to do so. And also you can support the channel in the two usual ways, which is the join button for the membership just underneath me and Billy Bob. Got some more members prizes coming up very, very soon. And, of course, Super Chats, which is the $ at the bottom of the live comments. And that will guarantee your comment to be read out live on the show. Good morning, Billy.
Good morning, and good morning to all you out there in Viewerland.
And how are we on this Friday morning?
I've been up since 6:30 this morning. Yeah, I've been watching the cricket and playing
right,
FIFA and all sorts.
Are you feeling all right?
Yeah, I'm sound. I didn't go to bed till 1 either. So
well, I think would be obviously you were laid up earlier in the week, so you're making up for it now with with awake time. So Billy's guaranteed to miss the start of TTR Friday tonight, everybody.
Obviously,
we will see. But listen, Eddie Howe has spoken to the media, and before anybody asks, no, there wasn't anything asked regarding set pieces. I don't understand these press conferences anymore, Billy. I know we do reaction to them, but obviously, you know, because we want to know about the players and the team and things like that. But I don't get it, because nothing is ever asked anymore regarding tactics or the lack of the lack of quality from set pieces. You know, why isn't anybody sitting in these press conferences, Billy, and saying to Eddie, look, we haven't scored from a certain amount of corners, or, you know, are we looking at doing anything in with regards to set piece takers, free kicks, because the set pieces just haven't been right all season? Nobody sits and asks him that.
No, I don't think they were even aware of it, if I'm perfectly honest.
Well,
basically, it was a rehash of this week's news. We had the Anthony Gordon contract signing. Went in depth about that, which he's already done. They spoke about Alexander Isak not signing his contract yet. There's no rush to do it because he's still got 4 years left on his deal, so they're not particularly bothered about that. It was just a waste of time, a complete and utter waste of time. He praised Enzo Muesca. He said that they have lots of squad depth, blah, 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 blah. But aside from that, there was nothing about us, really.
Yeah, and look, what fascinates me is, you know, I watched a couple of press conferences yesterday, because some do them on the Thursday, of course. And, you know, they seem to have very different press conferences to Newcastle United, because they really are focused on the game and who their opponents are. And, you know, or if something hasn't gone right through the course of a season, they're asked about it. You know, Sean Dyche, whether you like him or not, he has asked a lot of that in his Everton press conferences about what has gone wrong, what he feels is going right, where the future holds. And he answers the questions, because that's what a proper press conference is. But the reporters that go into ours don't seem to understand, or I don't know whether they're told anything before they go in, what they're not, or I mean, Keith Downey said that they're not briefed like that. You know, when he was on here, he said that they're not briefed as to what they can and can't ask. So I don't understand why maybe the reporters don't get together before these press conferences and ask what they're going to ask, and see what each other are asking, and then maybe change their question for whoever's like fourth or fifth in line in the press conference to ask the questions. And maybe somebody should just turn around and say, right, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to ask about the stats on set pieces and what's gone wrong with them. Why aren't we creating? Why aren't we scoring goals? What does he feel about that? I mean, there was nothing asked about that.
Well, they're not inquisitive, are they? And I think they just want to curry favour with the manager and Burnley's good side, because there's never any hostile questions. And it's plain as day that we need to score goals. We're creating chances, not scoring goals. And he kind of did mention that. And he said about Isak that, if he gets into them positions week in, week out, he'll start scoring goals. Last week, he didn't.
But the thing is, that's the thing with me, Billy. He's been in them positions quite a few times this season and hasn't converted. So I'd actually bounce a question back to him and say, well, that's fair enough, Eddie, but he hasn't done it when he's been in the positions all season. What gives you the confidence that he's going to become, once he gets a couple of goals, he's become the player he was last season? Just question him. And I'm sure Eddie prefers to talk about that in press conferences, because we know what he's like when he talks about stats and players and goals and positions and he loves talking about all that, and I just wish I could get in there, or somebody get in there who isn't going to be afraid to ask him a couple of questions on his tactics or set pieces, or ask what they're training on. Are you actually working on set pieces? I mean, he doesn't have to give a full answer, just give a brief answer of what maybe he feels is going wrong.
Well, that was what most journalists would do. I mean, any other field of entertainment or politics or anything, the proper questions get asked, don't they? And it's just, and most clubs get it as well, to be honest. But for some strange reason, they seem scared of asking Eddie Howe the searching questions, and then they never do it.
Yeah,
and the only ones that do it ask them in such a manner like Louise Taylor that you just think, well, I'm not answering that the way you're speaking. It's a ridiculous question. You're asking ridiculous questions. Why aren't people asking about set pieces? Why aren't people asking about the lack of goals?
Yeah.
Why aren't people saying when we were
asking about players' form as well?
When we were
asking about the right hand side that we don't, or we're not creating enough. Why do you think that is, Eddie? But it's also, Billy, the tone that you ask the question, I think gets better sort of response from the manager. If you're asking in a tone that you just mentioned Louise Taylor there, but if you're asking in a tone that seems very sort of sarky towards Eddie, or a bit off-putting towards Eddie, he's going to do the same back to you. But if you ask it in a constructive way, where you're asking in a friendly way, he's going to respond to that. But they don't ask the questions, and it just be nice. Just go in there, be nice, ask a question. You don't have to sound contradictory or anything like that, or sarcastic. Just in a nice tone, just ask him what he thinks is going wrong, and on certain things. And I'm sure he wants to address the Newcastle fans to say, look, don't worry, we are working on X, Y, or Z, and we are giving it our full effort to put things right, and eventually it will come good. It's no good, asking a question about Isak, well, yeah, but Isak will score a couple of goals and then he'll get going again. What gives him that confidence? What has he seen from Isak that gives him that confidence so far in gameplay this season? Maybe he's seen something else in training that would give him an opportunity to say that. It's just beyond me sometimes. Chipper says, to get the right answers, you need to ask hard-hitting questions. I mean, Steve Bruce, to be fair to him, got these questions asked, so why not Eddie Howe? Tangy says, Craig Hope said Gordon's head might be turned by Liverpool in the summer. This week he signed a new deal. Now Craig Hope is printing exclusive in paper saying Arsenal's in on alert about Isak. Shut up, Craig. Well, to be fair to Craig Hope, he got the Wilson situation spot on. So I think, to be fair, there is a lot of stuff going around about Isak not signing a new contract. Of course, Arsenal are going to be alerted to it, but they won't be the only ones. If there is any such stories going around the football world at the moment that Isak does not want to sign a contract or an extension, I know he's got years left, but why isn't he wanting an extension? That will alert other teams. It's obviously just common sense to think that, really. He did mention that Isak was back to top levels and will play 3 games in a week.
He's got no choice, he has to.
There's nobody else. I mean, he's got no confidence in Asula, quite clearly. So that he's the only striker. Kev says the reporters are and always have been desperate for salacious headlines about NUFC, not football. Funny how after the new Gordon contract is announced, they turned to Isak wanting to leave now. Yeah, they'll always make a story. There's always stories going to be out there, and we know that. Bulletproof says our tactics are same every game. Up the left, up the right, triangle of 3 players, try cross the ball, no one in the box. It's boring and everyone knows our tactics. I agree with that to a certain extent, and I think I've said many games now this season that I think we have been worked out. I said it at the back end of last season, which is again another question, Billy. Are you Eddie, are you prepared to maybe change the formation? Go moving forward if we don't continue to get results from a 4-3-3. It's a legitimate question, Billy.
He'll say he does it 3 or 4 times a game, but he clearly doesn't. We start off with a press, we run out of steam, and then that's that, isn't it? It's very predictable. And if we can see it week in, week out, then I'm sure people doing their homework, or paid to do their homework, to know what we're doing and be able to combat that, they're going to be able to do it easily. And Brighton did it perfectly, didn't they? Really?
Yeah, exactly. And I think one thing that you've picked up over the course of a couple of seasons, Billy, is we struggle against the low block.
Oh God, yeah. We do,
so there's another question. Eddie, it seems like a lot of people are turning up at St James's Park and playing the low block, which we seem to struggle against. Why do you think that is? You're asking a football question. You're opening up a question for a conversation with the manager, because that's the kind of information you want from your manager. If things aren't going right on the pitch, you want your manager to come out in a press conference and try and explain to us as fans why that is. What's not quite right? What is going? What's he doing to put it right? But it's literally never asked in a press conference. Carl Cairns is a new member of the channel. Thank you, Carl. That was done at 9:30 this morning, so really do appreciate that. Welcome to Members Club, and thank you for your support. LG says Arsenal would love to have him, and we'll be asking about him in the January window. I think there will be inquiries for Isak, Billy. I think it's inevitable, whether it's this January or in the summer. It doesn't matter how long he's got left on his contract. The fact that if he doesn't want to sign a new one is going to alert other teams.
Yeah, the longer he's got on his contract, it's beneficial to us, isn't it? We'll get a hefty chunk of change for him. And if he's not kicking up any, if he's not scoring goals by January, maybe it'd be advantageous to us to sell him.
Yeah. John Rowland says Pep changes his system every year. Teams work you out, so you have to change. Absolutely. I mean, you look at Fergie in the past, Billy. He was ruthless with doing that, wasn't he? When you look back and think, right, the selling of certain players that were massive to Manchester United's success, but he knew that he would have to sell those players in order to change the way they played to a certain degree, so they never got worked out, and he did it to perfection. I just think that's where Eddie needs to be a bit more ruthless. But until the questions are asked to him, we're never going to know how he's really thinking.
Well, if to get past the low block, you've got to have creative players, and we haven't really. We've got Tonali, we've got Bruno. Joe Linton's not a creative player. Gordon, for all his skills, is about pace. And on the right hand side, forget it. So there's no real creativity in there to break a low block down. And that's why we struggle with it. I don't know. I just don't know which way to go, because we had the vociferous press, and it just seems to get more passive year by year. And now we do the press for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then run out of steam, and then the press is gone.
Yeah. Tangy says Craig Hope talking about Wilson isn't really surprising. Most fans have a pretty good idea about Wilson's injury and recovery record. Yeah, he did say 3 games though, but I understand, Tangy, exactly. You're right, mate. That we all know as fans what's going on with Wilson. It's a farce. We'll come on to that in a minute. Julie says Brighton were very lucky. They were lucky first half, Julie, undoubtedly, but the problem we've got is we didn't put them to the sword when they weren't playing very well. They were all over the place in that first half with the new system they tried. They were all over the place, but we did not capitalise or punish them, and we ended up losing the game because of that.
And they could have scored 2 or 3 second half, couldn't they? Let's be honest.
Yep. They could have been out of sight second half, but it could have been a 4-4 game if it just didn't happen though. Ken says Isak's got 4 years left. Some new signings don't get that long a contract. I don't understand the flap. I could be pushing up daisies by 2028, but no flap here. Ken, let's hope not. But yes, but the problem is, Ken, yes, he's got a contract till 2028. All right. But it's not on probably the wages that he feels he deserves. And if he's not wanting to sign an extension, if somebody comes in for him, and makes a decent offer, Isak could then turn around and say, I'd like to go. And we've seen it many, many times in football. It doesn't matter whether your contract is 2028. If a player doesn't want to be here, he's not going to be wanting to play. So there's no point keeping him. If he doesn't want to play for my football club, then I don't want him, quite frankly. But, this is all just speculation about his contract at the minute. Nobody knows if he's actually come out and said, I am not signing a contract. People say his agent have said this. You just don't know.
Nah.
We battered Brighton with 4-3-3. It's not the formation. It's a lack of quality off the bench and inconsistency from the players. Yeah, but
I say we battered Brighton, but how many saves did their keeper actually make?
That's what you need. That's what you need to look at is the saves the keeper's making. If we battered them, the keeper would be making save after save. He didn't. We didn't hardly test him. So there's a flip side to everything. Right, let's take a look at some of the comments that Eddie made. During the conference. We'll start with Callum Wilson because I think we'll just get over that one straight away, Billy. He says, we are going to lose Callum for the next 3 games. He has had some tightness in his body. He hasn't felt like he can kick on to that last part of his recovery. I mean, this far down the line? Look, I think I'm fully now sick of it. I really am. I think we should just get rid of him in the summer. I think he's a waste of wages, quite honestly, now. I love Callum Wilson when he's fully fit. I think he's a fantastic player. But you've now got to wait another 3 games. He's then not going to start games straight away because he needs to build up match fitness, which is going to take 3 or 4 games. So you're looking at another 7-8 games at least before he's even considered to be a starter.
Christmas.
Yeah.
And that's without any niggles in the meantime, any setbacks.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a guy who was supposed to be fit for the Bournemouth away game. It's ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous. Chipper says nearly 7 months without Wilson. I think I read a stat yesterday, Billy, saying that it's roundabout he's played 6 games out of a possible 42 this year. 6!
Yeah. I mean, it's going to take him a month or 2 to get match fit.
Of course it is. Anthony says, lose him. We haven't had him. That's a very, very good point. Wilson doesn't need played. Save him until January window.
I'm not going to get anything for him, though, because he's out of contract at the end of the season. So,
yeah, that's the thing. I mean, but we'll get something, Billy. If we do sell him in January, we would get a fee. I don't think it'll be the fee that. But then again, is he worth a big fee? Because to me, he's not worth a big fee. I mean, you look back at his goal scoring is fantastic, fair enough. But his injury record, nobody is going to pay a big fee for Callum Wilson. So we may as well just get what we can for him and move on.
6 months' time, clubs ain't daft. They can wait till June and get him for nothing. So why are they going to spend 10 million on him in January? Unless they're really desperate for goals. And you've got to be really desperate to want Callum Wilson because he doesn't guarantee you games, let alone goals. I mean, when he plays, he scores, but it's the games, isn't it?
And the thing that really fucking frustrates me, Billy, is, you look back to the summer and we all said we need another striker. Will Asula was signed, but we all knew that was a 10 million signing. He was recommended to Eddie by Tyndall. He wasn't bought as a first-team striker, in my opinion. He's got, his goal-scoring record is abysmal. So he's not that out-and-out striker that we need. And we all said it in the summer. We need another striker because we can't rely on Isak and Wilson staying fit. And it just goes to show Isak's out of form. Wilson's not even knocking on the door yet. And we're in, we just can't score goals. Everybody saw this coming.
It's not just this season. It's been going on since Chris Wood left in the January of the Champions League game this season, when we finished 4th.
Yeah.
We didn't replace him then. And we had a season where we were alternating between Wilson and Isak, whoever was fit. Luckily for us, they weren't injured at the same time. It seemed to be in rotation. One would get injured, he'd done play, then he'd get injured, he'd always fit. So we've always needed a third striker. And with Callum Wilson out for so long, I mean, Will Asula, to me, isn't, in Eddie's mind, isn't even a 4th striker. So, I mean, why we signed him for 10 million quid, I'll never know.
But again, we go back to the questions that are asked in these press conferences. Why isn't he pushed on Asula? Why is somebody not sitting there going, Eddie, Asula's made a couple of substitute appearances late on in games. He hasn't really had a full go at it yet. What are your intentions with Asula? Are you, is he going to get a start? Are you going to, blend him into the Premier League because we are struggling up front? Could Asula be the man to solve them problems? Have you seen enough from him in training? Ask the questions.
Yeah. It's obvious questions as well, isn't it?
Of course,
and
it
you
is.
can guarantee if we'd have drew, I don't know, a League One Championship side in the Carabao Cup, he'd have probably played on Wednesday. He's not going to play against Chelsea in it because it's a hard game, so it's going to be the same side again.
Well, he said Isak's going to be playing 3 games, so that indicates to me that Isak's starting. Yeah. Shane says he is one. Get Callum fit and sell him in January. Well, whether he's fit or not, I just get rid of him. He's a poison on the wages at the minute. And I hate saying that to sound really horrible like that, but he is. He's played 6 games in a possible 42 in 2024. It's not good enough. And the fact that we were supposed to have this guy back before the Bournemouth away game, then the international break, then the next international break, and he was supposed to be fit after the international break, and he's still going to miss now another 3 games, possibly more, depending on whether he's still in tightness.
Before he actually got injured, he wasn't happy anyway because he wanted to go to Atletico Madrid last winter. He wanted that move desperately, and Eddie Howe blocked it. Yeah, maybe it's a bit of retribution for that. We don't know, do we?
Gary says both Newcastle and Brighton had 4 big chances. That tells me everything. You can have as much possession as you like. It does not mean anything without goals. And that's exactly right. We can dominate possession by all mounts, but creating chances is what we're not doing. And that was visible for all to see against Brighton. And then the chances that we did have, the Isak 1-on-1, the Gordon header in the second half, all of these just... We're missing too many chances. It's as simple as that. If we get something between 5 to 8 million in January, take it for Wilson. I'd take that in a heartbeat. But I think you'll struggle to get 8 million for Callum right now. Peter says, it wouldn't surprise me if Wilson hung up his boots at the end of the season. A lot of clubs are really going to be put off by his injury record. Probably over here, Pete, but you look at Saudi and you look at the MLS, there may be places that Callum can go and still get a very, very nice wage to finish off his career. I think I think he's done for the Premier League. I really do. I don't think his body can't hold up to the physicality, if you like, of the Premier League. But maybe the MLS, Billy, is somewhere that Callum could possibly look at.
Or the Championship. He could easily end up back here again, I guess. He's always round Coventry, so
yeah,
maybe back in the Championship. But yeah, it's Saudi, MLS.
I probably favour MLS over anywhere else. Wilson is not a Ronaldo. Wilson is a bit part player. Look at Ronaldo at 39 and still playing good football. I mean, you're talking about a player who is probably
harsh comparison to make, really.
These players come along once in a generation. Messi, Ronaldo,
never had injuries as either. Never had the injuries.
Not really, no. But you see his lifestyle. You see how he trains, how he eats. He's a machine. And not everybody, unfortunately, nobody's body is the same. Ronaldo has been blessed. He even said that, but it's the way he conducts himself off the pitch as well. Look, I'm not saying Callum doesn't conduct himself well off the pitch. He probably does, but it's just his body's very different to Ronaldo's. He's got muscles like, I mean, his hamstrings are like twigs, aren't they? Just
cheese strings,
yeah. What did you say there, Billy?
Cheese strings, not cheese strings.
Okay. I think for us to be a top 6 club, we need at least one player in every position except left forward. The backup is also, shouting out. Anthony says Isak shouldn't have started versus Brighton. Just give Asula some minutes to help rest Isak. I don't get this mentality from Eddie. But we'll never know what the mentality is until he's asked. And that's the thing, Billy. Nobody knows.
No, they don't. It's whenever he's fit, he plays, isn't it? It doesn't matter that he's been out for weeks with a broken toe. I would have been reluctant to bring him back for the Brighton game, or at least just play him a half and then bring Asula on. Yeah, he was on for the full 90, wasn't he? Yeah. And he said he was desperate for a goal, but I mean, he was desperate for a goal in the first half when he was clearing it through 1-on-1. Never looked like scoring after that, did he?
No, absolutely not. He went on to say, we're in a good place and we are trying to build on the good parts of our play against Brighton last week. The performance levels, we totally dominated that game for long periods. If we perform that way consistently, we will get results in the long term. Now, when he said that, right, I would then come back with a question, okay, and say, yes, Eddie, yes, we did. We dominated a lot of possession against Brighton, but it was completely powder puff in the final third. You know, how are you addressing that this week in training to then say, if we perform that well consistently, but if we perform that well consistently, but not scoring goals. So he's got to be asked the question of creativity in scoring goals.
And why didn't someone say we look creative down the left side, down through the middle, but down the right, there was nothing. So, I mean, Jacob Murphy is selected after Miggy Almond had played a good game against Wimbledon. Granted, it was Wimbledon. Then a good last half an hour against Everton. Why wasn't he selected last weekend?
Or
these questions got to be asked.
Our top scorer, Harvey Barnes, was dumped out to the side again.
And he was on the bench, yeah. The bloke that scores all the goals for us, who's been our best player this season, can't get a regular start.
What is going through your head when you decide to leave him out? Just Darren Bloomer, welcome to Members Club. Thank you very much for signing up for membership. Much appreciated. And thank you very much for your support, my man. Dean Young says, I feel for Callum. He obviously does not want to be injured. It must be heart-wrenching for the lad. Top performer when fit, but his body just won't hold up. Yeah, listen, this isn't anything personal against Callum Wilson. It's not his fault at the end of the day. It's got to be frustrating for Callum. He loves playing football. He loves scoring goals. But he's not been able to do that, for quite some time now because of various injuries that he's picked up. And he must be worried in the back of his mind, Billy, that his body is giving up on him.
I don't think he's been the same since he come back from the World Cup with that illness. I really don't.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Something has been missing from his game since then, and he's been picking up injuries all the more since. So, yeah, I think there's a lot to be asked about that World Cup campaign, that when he come back from it, he had some sort of virus. Yeah. And not been the same player since.
Yeah. Nick makes a good point here. Did anyone ask Eddie why Tonali still hasn't played 90 minutes?
Great question.
But also, why is Tonali not taking set pieces? Because I'd sit there and ask him. I would do it. I'd sit there and say, look, Eddie, by the way, just on set pieces, Sandro Tonali took all the set pieces for Italy in the Euros, in the Youth Championships, and was absolutely fantastic. They varied the free kicks in the corners, but Tonali managed to hit an Italian head 99 out of 100 times. What is the thinking behind him not taking the free kicks? Make him answer.
Yeah.
You've got to ask these questions to the manager, because at the end of the day, it's all about the football, or should be all about the football. These press conferences, it's not about the contracts. We want to know about what his thoughts are during a game and in training. What is he thinking ahead of certain games? But the Tonali one for me is a one that should have been asked and needs to be asked.
Without a doubt. Him and Bruno last week were fantastic, and they were the two hauled off. I didn't get it. I didn't understand any of it. Especially when we had a week or 8 days, more than a week, 8 days rest. And they didn't have knocks. They didn't have knocks because, there's been mentioned about injuries since. So,
I mean, yes, there might have been, certainly Bruno might have been a bit fatigued. Tonali, there was a comment came in on one of the shows last week afterwards saying that Tonali had been all over the world on international duty, same as Bruno. And I'm thinking, no, he hasn't. He's been in Europe. There's a big difference. So for me, whether they were a bit fatigued or not, we've got plenty of rest between that and the game at Chelsea. Why haul them off when we're losing the game? I don't, it's again, no questions asked. Then he went to talk about Anthony Gordon's new deal. Really pleased for him and for us. It's a really smart bit of work from the club and Anthony. Now he can really focus on his season and us. He is such a talent. We need him. This will help him get back to his best, no doubt. Now, Billy, I don't know whether you've read it the same way as me there, but when he says now he can really focus on his season.
Yep.
So does that mean
he wasn't focused before?
What was his head slightly turned in the summer with the Liverpool interest? And was he knocked off it a little bit? Because now he's saying he can fully concentrate on us. What's he been concentrating on?
Well, that again, the Euros campaign knackered him. Even though he only played for like 3 minutes or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It knocked him sideways, confidence-wise. So he was saying, and he came back and didn't attain proper fitness until recently. So, yeah, you can understand that, because at the end of the day, the season before, he didn't have a break at all.
No, he didn't.
He looked fantastic that season. So, I think we will see a better Anthony Gordon from now on. We saw signs of it last week. We saw signs of it against Man City.
Yeah.
It's getting a full 90 out of it, but you can guarantee tomorrow that they'll kick him because Chelsea have got a habit of doing it.
Absolutely, they'll be at him. No doubt about it. But hopefully, like you say, because when he's in free flow, he's unstoppable. So hopefully this is a big turnaround for Anthony. But just the way he said that, I'm thinking, oh, okay. Focus is being a little bit off. Trolls, thank you for your super chat. We will never win anything with Howe. I know he is English, but we need to improve, and Howe is regressing us, in my opinion. There is still plenty of people out there who are not sure on Eddie Howe. Darren Lee says also Mitchell needs to prove himself this January over excuses. A man with his experience in the DOF should have hit the ground running after 2 weeks.
Well, the first thing he had to do when he came in was oversee sales. So that's a bit harsh.
Especially, we don't know what he walked into. You know, Dan Ashworth wasn't there for a long time, remember, on gardening leave. So whoever was doing that job, they may as well, there possibly could have been a big sort of, monumental fuck up behind the scenes that they've had to sort out. So we don't know. I expect I do agree though, Darren, that he needs a big January, does Mitchell, just to prove to us in a way what he's capable of. Nick says, I think Gordon was pissed off at being offered around to fix our PSR issue.
Potentially.
Darren says, Tonali has been fantastic for us and Italy. It annoyed me when Eddie takes him off when we are losing, and when Longstaff plays, we win. I put him back in the team. Oh, Darren. Oh. Claire says, I only want Mitchell handling the January window. Eddie ruined the summer one. Ricky says, Alex is probably on the piss after watching Maxi last night. 23 million, at least a 35 million player on what we bought.
I agree with that.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, there was times Maxi showed his old Maxi self last night in the game, taking people on and then not quite the end product, but he did look very lively. It was a beautiful cross for their goal. Something we have not been able to do is put a cross in like that this season where we actually hit the man. That may change at Chelsea, of course, fingers crossed. And then I woke up and fell and drowned in my cornflakes. Claire says, honestly, if Murphy hadn't been given a long contract already, Howe would be saying to give him a new one. It screams of no ambition.
I tend to agree with that as well.
Right, and he went on to talk about the Chelsea challenge. They have real strength in depth. They are beginning to stabilize now in the sense that you can see consistency in their team selection. Credit to them for bringing in a really good manager that has brought in that tactical structure. He is very clever with what he does. We know the next 2 games are going to be very challenging. No shit. Challenging to say the least, Eddie. Billy, sorry. I'm calling you Eddie now.
Well, it is. It is. You know, they're the form team at the minute. They play. You know, they've settled into the Maresca era pretty well, I think. And despite him having all them players to choose from, I think he knows what his first 11 is, which is for all that. You know, for someone with all them players at his behest, it's a massive thing. They're a good side this year, Chelsea. They're going to be challenging. They really are.
Yeah, I think Chelsea will be a top 4 team this season. I really do. I've seen them a couple of times this season and been very impressed. I thought, as I said last night in the previous show, I thought they were excellent at Liverpool. Very unfortunate they didn't come out with at least a point out of that game. They deserved one, in my opinion. Played some great stuff. But again, I would have asked Eddie, are you frightened of their pace? You know, what are we going to do to counteract their pace?
He's not going to answer that, is he? There's no one on God's earth.
But no, he's got to be pushed on it, though.
Someone mentioned they do concede a lot of goals, though, which is, I guess it's true. We don't score a lot. So.
Exactly. It's we can say that they concede goals, but we don't score. Sounds like that's code for we're going to get a beating at Chelsea. I don't think there's many people confident, unless he names Paul Gallant, where he expects at least. Well, I think he's gone for a 2-0 win, but he wants more.
Who's going to score? Sean, Alex?
Alex, yes. Alex and Anthony, I think he said, for the goals. So, I mean, I don't know where he's getting the confidence from. Claire says, I hope we're in talks with potential managers behind the scenes. Again, Claire's not an Eddie Howe fan. Off the Eddie bus. Yvonne says, hi, everyone. I'm worried about Sunday. There's not much in it for us, unfortunately. Well,
I disagree with that. Everyone's expecting us to lose. So if we lose, we're not surprised.
I think it's like Alex said, though, Billy. Yeah. I think, though, what Alex said last night was important. It's the performance, isn't it? Where if we lose the game, but we've given a good account of ourselves, then fair enough, no complaints. But if we lose the game and the performance is dross, then there's a lot to answer. Because our starting 11 should be good enough to give Chelsea a really good game. We've got some talented players in that side. So, if the performance is poor, then that's when we need to start asking, why.
It's how it sets us up, though, isn't it? I mean, if it sets us up to just for a 0-0 draw, which, let's be honest, he's tried it before, and it's always, he tried it at Arsenal last season, didn't work. He tried it at Chelsea last season after we'd scored, sat back on it. Probably the worst thing we could do is score early, because then we just sit back for the rest of the game, try to hold on to it.
Yeah. But if we concede early, then, that is then a massive test.
Yeah.
Jake says, even though I hate Sunderland, they do look like they're going up. Mundell on their wing looks a player. They've got some good players, rivalry aside. Sunderland have got some very, very good players and a couple of really good wingers. They've got a very good manager at last as well. It's took them a while to find a decent manager who knows what he's doing. This guy does look... I mean, I don't know where you stand on Sunderland, Billy, whether you'd like them back in the Premier League for the derbies.
No, I'd like to see him in the Northern Premier. Absolutely not. I'd like to see him in the Wearside fucking pub league. I don't give any credit for anything. And I've watched them a couple of times. They've been very lucky in a few games, but they have got some decent players.
I mean, that goal they scored at Hull was a cracker, wasn't it? Around the whole length of the pitch and finish. But sod Sunderland. Mitchell was in Japan on pre-season, etc. At the pre-season games beforehand. The window didn't shut at the end of July.
Yeah, look, but Eddie Howe restricted him to what he wanted. He wanted one player. That was it.
I mean, we're not going to be ever privy to what goes on. Martin says, any news on the Content Awards? Well, there's nothing now until November. We don't know until the actual event now. So we just have to keep fingers crossed and hopefully we've done enough. If you're watching, judges, I hope you got the envelope. Dear. You never know, Billy. You never know. Now, on the back-to-back games against Chelsea, he said, interesting for both them and us. It is unusual. I embrace the challenge and look forward to it. Having watched Chelsea in the last few weeks, I do expect a good game and a tough one. Well, yeah, it is going to be tough. It's going to be very, very tough. But again, Billy, I mean, we expect him to say that. And, talking about Chelsea like that, what's he going to say? The manager's a dickhead. They're a shit football team, and we're going to thrash them. He's not going to come out with any of that bollocks. It's going to be, yep, give respect to the manager, no doubt about it. And yes, it's going to be a very tough 2 games. It's against Chelsea. Of course, it's going to be a tough 2 games. But what we want to know is more about the players, the set pieces, the tactics, the formations. Talk about Newcastle United and what's not gone right this season and how you intend on putting it right.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to announce all that, though, before a Chelsea game. We'll know when we see him line up on Sunday. It's simple and straightforward as that. We all know who the players are going to be. It's how he lines them up for me. And he can go in and just play low block and soak it up. But are you confident that we can soak up Chelsea pressure for 90 minutes? Because I'm not.
Nope.
Absolutely not.
I think if we park the bus, we're in serious trouble. But then again, like I said last night, I don't want us to go gung-ho either. Somewhere in the middle where we compete. And we don't just give Chelsea the ball and give them too much respect and say, because I think if we do that, we're basically bowing down to them and saying, you're a better side than us.
I agree.
And I don't think that's the case.
He did that last season when he took off Bruno 81 minutes.
Well, you snapped after that, didn't you? I mean, that was the game you snapped on, the last game at Chelsea.
I did snap.
And rightly so. We were very frustrated that day. But that's it for the press conference reaction, guys. There's nothing to say about tactics or anything like that. Unfortunately, they just don't ask the manager. feel free to write into the club and try and get the Toon Review a media pass, and I will ask the questions 100%. There is no doubt I wouldn't give a shit. I'd ask the questions that I think fans want to know. But then again, these reporters, for all the qualifications and stuff like that, they don't ask the questions that we want answered. And they're not representing the supporters either. We need people in there who are going to represent the fans and ask questions in the fans as well. But there you go. What can we do? What can we do? But thank you very much for watching. Thank you for your membership, super chats and mods. Thank you for your job. And of course, thank you, Billy, for joining me this morning. And to you guys as well for spending a bit of time with us on this Friday morning. We are, of course, back tonight at 7 o'clock with the best way to start your weekend, which is TTR Friday. We'll have more football talk. We'll have, obviously, Billy's beef. Shamed by Stato as well. I have a feeling that they're going to be angry ones tonight. And of course, we'll get you on later on in the show to have your say on all things Newcastle United. So we'll have a good laugh tonight and start the weekend in the right way before we're all depressed and feeling like shit on Sunday evening. I jest. Hopefully we're bouncing. But thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you again at 7. Take care.
How are the lads and lasses?
Come back and check out the